You made a comparison with you and Nas, man. Everybody was talking about it. Now, why out of everybody you pick Nas, bro?
I didn't do it.
They asked him.
No,
they asked him a question.
New song?
No.
You don't like Ace Trumpets?
What's so great about
Bullion? It's so good.
You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlemagne's top 50 and things like
What's
that.
your top
But
50?
you haven't done that much for me in my life. Like I didn't never want to be like Pusha. I never had a Pusha moment.
My son can't tell you one Nas record. You heard? Like let's keep it a buck.
You ever watch somebody say something so wild, so out of pocket, that the entire room stops breathing for a second? That's exactly what happened when Jim Jones sat down on a podcast and casually decided to throw shade at Nas. Yeah, that Nas. Out of nowhere, he downplayed one of the most respected figures in hip-hop history like it was just another hot take for clicks. He's not in my top 50, Jim said. He didn't really mean that much to me. Bro, what? The internet didn't just react, they erupted. This wasn't some light debate over lyrics or sales numbers. This was Jim looking straight into the camera and basically trying to erase a whole legacy. And if you thought it stopped there, oh no, he doubled down.
I admired Nas, but remember Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade. So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan. Period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals will be idols, and not to take anything away from that. I developed my own style in my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation. I came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them. Some of them know.
You know what I mean?
A lot
Like,
of them don't.
He said Nas never really impacted the culture like people claim, bragged about making Nas go viral, and then even pulled his own son into the conversation, like that somehow proved his point. The way that one quote spiraled across the timeline, it was like watching a slow-motion car crash you couldn't look away from. Hip-hop heads were stunned, Nas fans were fuming, and even neutral listeners were like, yo, did he really just say that? But here's where it gets crazy. That moment wasn't even the peak. It was just the spark. Because what Jim didn't realize, what nobody realized at the time, was that he'd just lit the fuse on a culture-wide clapback that was about to flip everything upside down.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally, it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening.
So after setting the internet on fire by coming at Nas, you'd think Jim might take a breather, maybe let the smoke settle a bit. Nope. He went straight for round 2, and this time, he aimed at Pusha T. Now look, if there's one person in hip-hop you don't randomly throw shade at for fun, it's Push. The man is known for surgical disses, not casual rebuttals. But Jim, he hit the podcast circuit like he was on a press tour for reckless quotes, saying Push wasn't influential, that he never had a moment that meant anything, that he didn't even belong in anyone's top 50. And here's the wildest part, Jim used to be a fan. This wasn't just some harmless trash talk. It came from a place that felt weirdly personal, like he was trying to air out some long-held grudge. He even questioned whether Pusha had fans at all, like out loud on camera, completely ignoring the fact that this is the same guy who bodied Drake and walked away untouched.
I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of shit. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that
but listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciate him. He had a little bit run. But Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
Ain't no shame in that. There's a lot of folks came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear and shit, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like that.
And while Jim kept talking, Push stayed quiet. No angry tweets, no interviews, no clapbacks. Just silence. Which, if you know Push's style, is the scariest part. Because when he doesn't respond immediately, that's when you really need to worry. The culture felt it. Like something was coming. Something big. But Jim didn't stop there. Nah, he just kept going. Like he thought nobody could touch him. And that's when things took a sharp turn. Right into Paris.
What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
Now, has Nas done that?
You dig? The last time he was in some shit like this, when people were comparing when him and Jay was beating on him. You heard? You dig? Like, and I don't want to talk about other people's career, but let's just get to the semantics of it.
Since the whole Nas? Okay.
Huh? I don't know Nas to have a conversation with. We don't have a conversation, we can have that too and shit like that. You dig? Like, I don't really care.
Now picture this. Paris Fashion Week, the Louis Vuitton Spring Summer Show, easily one of the most high-profile events on the planet. The room is stacked with royalty. Beyoncé, Rihanna, Jay-Z, LeBron, every major name in music, fashion, and culture sitting front row, cameras flashing, history being made. And just when the show hits its peak, the beat drops. But this ain't just any runway soundtrack. This is new music, unreleased. And it's Pusha T and No Malice, reunited as Clips, debuting a track so razor-sharp you could feel the tension shift mid-strut. The bars? Cold, calculated, surgical. And one line in particular slices through the room like a whisper in a silent crowd. Chasing a feature out of your element might block your blessings. That wasn't a subliminal. That was a dart with Jim's name etched in gold.
It down amongst veterans. I'm watching fans get relevance. We all in the room, but he's the elephant. You chase the feature, I'll be your element. I don't flat down, it's under inspection. The question marks block your blessing.
See, not long before this, Jim had tried to ride the Drake wave, cozying up to him right after Dipset honored Drake in Harlem. But that's the same Drake who got left leaking after Pusha dropped The Story of Adidon. You try to align with the guy who still hasn't recovered from the most iconic diss of the last decade? Bold strategy. So Push responds, not with a tweet, not with a freestyle, but by turning Paris Fashion Week into a battleground. This was checkmate, and Jim didn't even realize he was in the game. No shouting match, no messy back and forth, just icy silence followed by an elite-level power move. And here's what really stung. Jay-Z was vibing to it. Right there, in the front row. That wasn't just a clapback. That was legacy warfare disguised as luxury. But believe it or not, this wasn't even the most savage part of the whole situation. Because while Jim was still talking, Nas was out here building empires in silence.
Can you sing along the 5 Pusha T records right now? His records.
Yeah.
His records?
Yeah.
Name
I
them.
love Pusha. Nostalgia.
Oh, you was a Pusha T fan.
You know.
I didn't know he had fans like that. Can you name 5 Pusha T records? No, his records. Pusha T. I love your soul, my dog. You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlemagne's top 50 and things like that, but you haven't done that much for me in my life. Like, I didn't never want to be like Pusha. I never had a Pusha moment in my life. I never thought, like, you dig? Like, where I'm from, niggas want to be like you if you was really that dude and that rapper and things like that.
Wayne wanted to be like Pusha?
Shit.
He was influenced by Pusha?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's why Pusha did the Mr. Me Too record.
Okay, cool. You a very strong Pusha T fan. You heard? But what else has he bring to the game? Did he make people want to dress like him? Did he have some slang that everybody was talking like him? There would be all the girls wanted to do him. Like, what is you did?
While Jim was making podcast rounds and tossing out hot takes like he was auditioning for a reality show, Nas was doing the one thing that speaks louder than any diss track. Building. Quietly, strategically, like a man who's been playing chess while everyone else was fighting over checkers. And what he dropped? It wasn't a verse. It was a vision. A $5 billion vision. See, while Jim was talking about radio spins and viral clips, Nas was launching Resorts World Queens, a massive 350,000 square foot project that's part luxury casino, part economic revival, and all legacy. We're talking equity, infrastructure, generational moves. Not headlines history. Nas didn't need to respond to Jim because his receipts did all the talking.
The future is not something you wait for. It's something you build. It lives in the hands of the doers, the dreamers, the people who refuse to stand still. Resorts World is more than a casino. It's energy. It's opportunity. It's hope for the borough. A second chance for some, a first step for many. It's where a community gathers, not just to win, but to build a future once imagined. This isn't just business. This is legacy. And now it's time. Time to invest in us.
He's putting his borough on the map in ways hip-hop rarely sees. And fans took notice fast. The comments weren't just defending Nas, they were roasting Jim. One guy's chasing clout, the other's building queens. That's the energy. Because when you've got real influence, you don't need to scream it. You let the portfolio speak. And the contrast couldn't be louder. On one side, Nas securing generational wealth. On the other, Jim spinning in circles on every platform that'll hand him a mic. But instead of recognizing that silence is strength, Jim saw it as a green light to go even harder. And what came next? That wasn't strategy. That was desperation. At this point, most people would have read the room, realized they went too far, maybe laid low for a while, but not Jim. He hit the gas, hard. It was like watching a one-man PR spiral in real time. Every other day, he was popping up somewhere new. Breakfast Club, Rap Caviar, Drink Champs, repeating the same lines, trying to reframe the narrative like he wasn't the one who lit the fuse. But the more he talked, the worse it got. He kept saying things like, "I made Nas go viral," like he single-handedly revived one of the most respected rappers in history. Bro, Nas doesn't need a revive. He's been working non-stop. 3 albums in 5 years, a Grammy, sold-out tours. Meanwhile, Jim's out here doing the media circuit like he's on an apology tour without actually apologizing. And just when you thought he couldn't reach any further, he dragged his own kid into it again. Like the youth not knowing Nas somehow proves a point. That move, it didn't land. It backfired. People started catching on. This wasn't confidence, it was a cry for relevance. Jim wasn't starting conversations. He was chasing them. You could see the shift online. Fans weren't mad anymore. They were just tired. Tired of the noise, the recycled takes, the constant reaching. But instead of taking a breath and regrouping, Jim decided to escalate. And his next move? That's when things got real messy. Just when it felt like Jim had pushed every button possible, he found a new one. And this time, he pressed way too hard. Out of nowhere, he dragged No Malice into the chaos. Now, if you know anything about clips, you know No Malice isn't just Pusha T's brother. He's a man who walked away from the industry, stepped into a different lane entirely, and built a new life grounded in purpose. He's not chasing streams, he's not looking for headlines, and he definitely isn't jumping into beef. So when Jim decided to casually toss his name into the mix, it hit different. This wasn't just another name drop. It felt like crossing a line that didn't need to be touched. You could almost hear the internet pause. Like, wait, did he really just go there? It's one thing to spar with Pusha, who lives for lyrical chess matches. But bringing up someone who's been intentionally quiet, someone who stepped away on principle, that's not clever. It's desperate. And the culture felt it instantly. You could see it in the comments, the quote tweets, the eye roll emojis. People weren't even mad anymore. They were disappointed. Like, bro, you're throwing shade at someone who's not even in the room, hoping to score points that nobody's keeping track of. It was like yelling into an empty hallway and pretending the silence was applause. And while Jim kept talking, kept jabbing, the response he was waiting for never came. No Malice didn't say a word, because he didn't need to. The silence said it all. But that silence wasn't weakness. It was part of a much bigger setup. And when the next move landed, it wasn't just personal. It was poetic.
It went viral on the Spotify Rap Caviar podcast.
Yes.
About
Man,
Pusha T.
People don't like people, yeah. See, there we go. And then look what happens. But I'm ready for all things, man. Shouts to Pusha, shouts to that guy, shouts to the clips. You know what I mean? Congratulations.
Do you like the new song?
No, but
You don't like Ace Trumpets?
What's so great about
Hooligan?
it?
It's so good.
It's good.
It's so, oh man.
It's good.
So yeah, there's something going on that you ain't telling us about,
It's
bro.
good in what? A nostalgic value of it.
You don't think Ace Trumpets
I
is
don't believe
hard?
it. I don't believe them. But that's a whole nother story. I don't want to downplay nobody's craft.
So after weeks of interviews, name drops, and sound bites, Jim finally got what he'd been chasing the whole time. A big stage. Summer Jam 2024. All eyes on him. This was supposed to be his redemption arc. His moment to prove he still had it. But what actually happened? The exact opposite. He stepped out expecting fireworks, but the crowd? Cold. The buzz? Barely a hum. It was one of those moments where the energy just dies. And then came the knockout punch. Funk Master Flex, yes, that Flex, the one who's had Jim's back for years, cut his set short. Just straight up ended it like a mic drop with no applause. You could see it in Jim's face. That instant flash of confusion turning into the slow realization that this moment he'd built everything around was slipping right through his fingers. All that noise, all that effort, and when it was finally time to show and prove, crickets. This wasn't just about music anymore. It was about energy, vibe, legacy. And Jim didn't bring hits. He brought baggage. The kind that drags down a whole set no matter how loud the speakers are. The audience wasn't there for drama. They came for greatness. And when you stand next to names like Nas and Pusha T, you better show up with something timeless. But all Jim had was tension. The internet didn't even clown him that hard. They didn't need to. The silence said more than words ever could. But here's the real twist. This wasn't the final chapter. Because while Jim was still figuring out what went wrong, the other side hadn't even fully played their hand yet. And what came next? That was the final shift no one saw coming. You'd think after a public moment like that, Jim might finally tap out. But nah, he still had one more move in him, and unfortunately, it was his worst one yet. He went on camera and took one last swing, this time dissing Chains and Whips, the exact Clips track that premiered in Paris, and had the whole fashion world nodding their heads. He tried to play it cool, act like he didn't care, saying, "I never really listened to Clips." Like brushing it off would undo the impact. But you could see it all over his face. He wasn't unfazed, he was rattled. Because deep down, Jim knew the math wasn't mathing anymore. He was out here reacting while Push was plotting. And here's where it gets icy. Insiders close to Clips say that Paris drop? That was just the appetizer. The album? Oh, it's coming. And it's supposedly packed with precision-level bars aimed straight at Jim's narrative. Word is, Paris was the warning shot. The rest is surgical. Think of it like this. Jim's been playing loud and messy, hoping for a moment. Meanwhile, Push is out here building a comeback wrapped in billionaire energy, Pharrell production, and chessboard-level timing. He's not trying to win the internet for a day. He's aiming to shut the whole thing down. And the wildest part? Jim walked right into it. Tried to repurpose the same exact beat from Chains and Whips for his response track. Like, imagine getting buried on a song and then trying to reuse it like that somehow flips the story. It didn't. It just highlighted the gap. This wasn't a beef. This was a breakdown. A reality check in real time. Because while Push was out here playing chess with the world's elite, and Nas was literally reshaping Queens with generational moves, Jim was still chasing moments that slipped through his fingers before they even landed. The fans saw it. The culture felt it. And now, Jim's not trending, he's not charting, he's not even in the conversation. And the album that might close this chapter for good, it hasn't even dropped yet. So now the question is, Is this the end of Jim's legacy, or just the start of something even messier? Let me know what you think in the comments. Did he go too far, or is the culture being too harsh? And if you're rocking with this kind of deep dive, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, this saga, it's far from over.